I'm 87 years old, and I'm about to tell you something that might upset you. Everything you think you know about what matters in life is completely wrong. Your parents lied to you. Your teachers lied to you. Society has been feeding you a fantasy, and you've been swallowing it whole. I lived 65 years believing the same lies. At age 65, something happened that shattered everything I thought I knew. What I discovered in the 22 years since has completely changed how I see life, death, and what actually matters. I'm making this because I'm running out of time, and there are things you need to hear before it's too late. Not for me, for you. I might have 5 years left. Maybe 10 if I'm lucky. Maybe I'll be gone next year. Either way, the clock is ticking, and I don't have time to sugarcoat this. At 65, I had everything. I was a partner at a law firm I helped build from nothing. I had the house in the suburbs, the beach house, the retirement portfolio that would make your financial advisor weep with joy. I had 3 grown children, 2 grandchildren, respect in my community. People asked me for advice. They called me successful. I thought I had it all figured out. I had the corner office, the plaques on the wall, the invitations to all the right events, the handshake deals worth millions. I was living the dream. At least that's what everyone told me. I was in my home office, going over quarterly reports at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday, when my chest started to feel tight. Not painful, just tight. Like someone was wrapping a belt around my ribs and pulling. I tried to stand up, and the room tilted. My vision went dark at the edges. I remember reaching for my phone, but my fingers wouldn't work right. I collapsed before I could dial. My wife found me on the floor 20 minutes later. Doctors called it a massive myocardial infarction. That's a fancy way of saying my heart tried to kill me. 3 blocked arteries, emergency surgery, 5 days in ICU. When I finally really came to, my wife was sitting in the corner of the hospital room. She wasn't crying. That's what scared me. She just looked tired, exhausted, like she'd been tired for years and I never noticed. The cardiologist told me I was lucky. Lucky. I was 65 years old, lying in a hospital bed with tubes coming out of me, and he called me lucky. A colleague visited and said, "At least you made it to retirement." My daughter came by and barely stayed 10 minutes. Said she had to get back to the kids. My son called instead of visiting. Too busy with work, he said. Lying in that hospital bed at 2 a.m., unable to sleep because of the machines beeping and the nurse checks every hour, I realized something terrifying. I had spent 65 years building a life that looked successful from the outside, but felt empty from the inside. I wasn't really alive. I was just going through the motions, checking boxes, climbing ladders, and I never once stopped to ask myself if any of it actually mattered. Let me tell you the biggest lie you're probably telling yourself right now. I have time. That's it. That's the lie that will ruin your life if you let it. You tell yourself you have time. Time to fix things. Time to change. Time to start living the way you want to live. You don't? Here are the variations of that lie I told myself for 65 years. When I make partner, then I'll slow down and spend time with my family. When I pay off the mortgage, then I'll take that trip. When the kids are grown, then my wife and I will reconnect. When I retire, then I'll pursue my passions. When I have enough saved, then I'll feel secure and relax. Let me save you decades of regret with one simple truth. That day never comes. You know why? Because the goalposts keep moving. I made partner and immediately started gunning for senior partner. Paid off one mortgage and bought a bigger house with a bigger mortgage. The kids grew up, and I barely knew them, and by then they barely wanted to know me. I retired with millions in the bank and realized I had no idea who I was without my job title. You're climbing a ladder, working so hard to reach the top, and you never stop to check if it's leaning against the right wall. And when you finally get to the top and realize you climbed the wrong ladder, you can't climb back down and start over. Time doesn't work that way. You can't get back the years you spent at the office instead of at your daughter's recitals. You can't replay the anniversary dinners you missed. You can't resurrect the relationships you let die. And you can't buy back time. Trust me, I've tried. I had a colleague who died 11 years ago at 58, Robert. He worked 70-hour weeks for 3 decades, never took a real vacation. He built a company worth $50 million. Everyone respected him. He kept saying he'd slow down next year. Next year became next year, became next year. Then one Tuesday morning, his secretary found him slumped over his desk. Massive stroke. Dead instantly. At his funeral, his son got up to speak. He said, "And I will never forget this. My father was a successful man. He built an empire. He provided for us, but I barely knew him, and I don't think he knew me at all. The church was silent. You could hear people crying. Is that the legacy you want? Your regrets won't be about the things you did wrong. They'll be about the things you didn't do at all. My father died when I was 43. He was 71. Heart attack. Quick. No warning. We had what you'd call a complicated relationship. He was tough. I was stubborn. We butted heads my whole life. As I got older and built my career, I was always too busy to really work on our relationship. Too busy to have the difficult conversations we needed to have. I kept thinking we'd have time to talk when I was less busy. When he was older and I was established and we both had perspective, we never got that chance. He died on a Thursday. I was in a deposition. My secretary interrupted to tell me. I remember thinking, I'll call him this weekend. But he was already gone. And you know what my biggest regret is? All the Sundays I didn't call him. All the times I was too tired to drive the 2 hours to see him. All the little moments I let slip away because I was focused on my career, my ambitions, my ego. I told myself I'd make time later. Later never came. There won't always be more. That's a lie we tell ourselves to avoid living right now. I don't lie awake at night thinking about the cases I lost. Those don't matter. You know what keeps me up? The trip to Japan. I never took with my wife because I was too busy. She wanted to go for our 30th anniversary. I said we'd go for our 35th, then our 40th. We finally went for our 50th. But those 20 years, gone. And Japan at 80 isn't the same as Japan at 60. The relationship with my youngest daughter that I let deteriorate. She's 52 now. We're cordial. We're not close. That's on me. You can't get back the years when your kids actually want to spend time with you. The novel I always wanted to write, but never started because I didn't have time. I was 87 years old before I finally wrote the first page. 87. These things eat at you. The missed opportunities, the love you didn't express, the risks you didn't take because you were afraid of looking foolish. Someday is a place you never reach. After my heart attack, I made big changes. I stepped back from the firm, stopped taking new clients, started saying no to things that didn't matter. The committees, the boards, the networking events I attended out of obligation rather than genuine interest. I started saying yes to things I had put off for decades. Painting. I'd wanted to learn to paint since I was 30. I took a class at the community college at 66 years old, sitting next to 20-year-olds, feeling like an idiot, not caring. In these last 22 years, I've learned more about living than I did in the previous 65 years. What matters is embarrassingly simple. Time with people you love. Work that feels meaningful to you, not work that looks impressive to others. Experiencing things, not owning things. Creating memories, being present instead of constantly planning the next thing. I know it sounds simple. When I was your age, I would have rolled my eyes at this. Sure, but I have bills to pay. I have responsibilities. I can't just opt out of society and go find myself. And yes, you do have bills. I'm not saying quit your job. I'm not saying abandon responsibility. I'm not suggesting you sell everything and move to a monastery. I'm saying don't sacrifice what matters for what doesn't. There's a difference between working to live and living to work, between providing for your family and never seeing them, between building a future and missing the present. You can have a career and still show up. You can be ambitious and still have dinner with your spouse. You can pursue success without sacrificing your health, your relationships, your soul, but you have to be intentional about it. Because here's what nobody tells you. Success isn't about what you achieve. It's about who you become and who you share it with. I've been to the top. I've had the money, the status, the respect. And I'm telling you, none of it matters as much as a single afternoon spent laughing with someone you love. None of it matters as much as being present for the small moments that, when you look back, were actually the big moments. If you died tomorrow, what would you regret? Not the promotion you didn't get, not the money you didn't make. You'd regret the time you didn't spend, the love you didn't express, the experiences you postponed, the relationships you neglected, the life you were planning to live someday. So here's what you need to do right now. First, call someone you love and haven't talked to in too long. Not a text, a call. Better yet, visit them. Tomorrow isn't guaranteed. Second, take inventory of how you spend your time versus how you want to spend it. Be honest, make one change this week. Third, stop waiting for permission to live. You don't need more money or more time to start doing what matters. Start now. Take the class, plan the trip, have the conversation. Fourth, say no to something this week that you'd normally say yes to out of obligation. Create space for what matters. Fifth, if there's someone you need to forgive, let it go. Life's too short to carry around anger. And finally, ask yourself every day, if this was my last year, would I live it the same way? If the answer is no, change something today. I'm 87 years old. If I'm lucky, maybe another 5 years. Maybe 10 if I'm blessed. Probably less. And I'm okay with that. Because these last 22 years have been the richest of my life. Not because I made more money, not because I achieved more, but because I finally started living intentionally, appreciating every single day, prioritizing what actually matters. I've traveled to places I always wanted to see. Greece, the Amalfi Coast, New Zealand with my wife. I have deepened my relationships with my children and grandchildren. My youngest daughter and I are finally close. It took work. It took humility. It took admitting I was wrong. But we got there. I pursued hobbies I put off. I paint now. I'm not good, but I don't care. I read fiction. I write. I'm working on that novel I should have written decades ago. I've forgiven people I held grudges against for years. And I say I love you constantly. Because I learned you don't get infinite chances to say it. Here's the irony. I'm happier now at 87 with maybe 5 years left than I was at 50 when I thought I had all the time in the world. When you understand time is limited, you start to actually live. You stop wasting it on nonsense. You stop postponing joy until some imaginary future date. You stop making excuses. You say no to what doesn't matter. You say yes to what does. You create the memories while you still can. You have a choice right now, today. Keep living the way you're living. Keep putting things off. Keep telling yourself you'll make changes later. Keep chasing success and status and security while your life passes you by. Keep missing the moments that matter because you're too busy planning for a future that might never come. Or wake up. Realize that time is running out faster than you think. Understand that the life you're waiting to live needs to start now, today, this moment. Not when you make more money, not when you get the promotion, not when the kids are grown or the house is paid off or you finally have enough saved. Now, I can't make this choice for you, but I can tell you this. You don't want to be 87 years old looking back, wishing you'd made different choices. You don't want to be lying in a hospital bed, wondering where your life went. You don't want to reach the end and realize you never really lived. Don't waste decades figuring this out the hard way like I did. Learn from my mistakes, learn from my regrets. Let my story be a warning. Live intentionally, prioritize what matters. Stop waiting for someday. Someday is today. It always has been. If this resonates with you, share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment telling me what you're going to do differently starting today. Subscribe, because I have more truths to share and not much time left to share them. The clock is ticking. What are you going to do with your time?